Okay, this webinar has started and recording is in progress. For anybody just joining, I see participants slowly but surely joining us. Numbers are rising. So I will kick things off just to introduce today's webinar. My name is Kieran Farrell and I work with Horizon NUA, who are responsible for the Connecting Nature Enterprise platform. Today, this is our third webinar in the autumn webinar series brought to us by GoNaturePositive, an EU-funded project that Giulia is going to tell us all about very shortly. The topic today is mainstreaming sustainable forestry in the EU. And Giulia Soldano is a nature positive consultant with ETIFOR based in Italy, and she works closely with a number of the pilot projects on GoNaturePositive. It's across tourism and forestry and a number of other sectors. A brief note in terms of housekeeping. If you have any questions, we will address them, say, in the last 15 minutes, but please use the Q&A function on Zoom, down the very bottom there somewhere. We'd also welcome anybody to say hello in the chat. If you'd like to tell us where you're from, why you're listening, or if you have any comments as we go along with the webinar, feel free to share them in there. In total, we should be roughly 60 minutes. We won't be keeping you too much longer. And that's it. It's my absolute pleasure to introduce Giulia Soldano, and we're looking forward to what she has to tell us.
Okay, thank you very much, Kieran. I think I can start already, or do we want to wait some other few minutes if people want to join? In the meanwhile, I will share my slides.
That sounds like a plan. There's numbers joining, and I'm just checking the chat is working for everybody. Hi, everybody. Please feel free to say hello. Tell us where you're from. Gotcha, Giulia. 1 second. All over to you. You can now share those slides. Apologies for that. Super. Okay. And I see people can work the chat also. Hi, Karen. Okay, I'm going on mute. Leave be. See you on the other side. Thanks, Giulia.
Thank you. Wait a second. I will just... I see it very little. 1 second. Let's do like this.
Maybe if you hit presentation mode. And up on the top right for you, is it, or top left? Does it say present? Blue button.
I can see it, but it's very small. But, well, you can see it.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay.
There is a present function there on your Google Slides. Yeah, you've got it there. Ahora sí.
Okay.
Lo vemos
Okay,
todo.
great. Great. Perfect. Sorry for the inconvenience. Welcome all. I'm Giulia Soldano. I'm a nature positive consultant in ETIFOR. As Kieran said, this is the third webinar along the GoNaturePositive project. Before starting with the topic, I just present very briefly who is ETIFOR. ETIFOR is an environmental consulting company, and we put nature at the heart of decision making. And we use a very multidisciplinary approach like working in different areas and departments, and we really base our consulting on science-based and scientific methodology. As you can see here, we are quite a lot, and these are the 6 main areas of interest in ETIFOR. We have network governance, where we work with public entities, forestry sector, tourism sector, and then we have Wow Nature, that is a platform where you can organize events and reforestation project from the platform. And then we have the supply chain, always along the forestry sector. And then my team, that is GoNaturePositive, where we work with private companies in helping them building a strategy to mitigate their impact on nature. As we said, we are here thankful to get GoNaturePositive. ETIFOR is a partner of different European and national projects. One of these is exactly GoNaturePositive, that is a EU-funded project, started in 2024 in January, and it will conclude in 2027 in December. What is the goal of this project? The goal is to accelerate awareness and transformative action towards a nature-positive economy, taking in consideration different stakeholders like policymakers, investors, business, and in general, society and citizens. The challenge of this project is are the concepts on nature-positive, how to measure negative impacts on nature, and also the greenwashing topic. So that is spreading a lot. So thanks to the project, we will try to clarify what is a nature-positive economy. So clarifying the concept, aligning it with policies and regulations, and also we will try and we will find indicators and metrics to measure the progress towards a nature-positive economy in order to then spread and replicate our results to a global level. During the project, we will also test our results along 6 different sectors, 6 different pilots. You can see here which are this sector. The first one is forestry. Then there is tourism. There has been already the webinar on tourism last week. If you want to see the recording, for sure it will be available soon. As well as agriculture, and then we have apiculture, blue economy, and green buildings. The reason why we choose these 6 sectors is are different, but the most relevant are because they are really a lot related to nature. They depend a lot on nature, and they also have a really big impact on nature, actually, because they work closely with it. So we are here to talk about the forestry one, and here some of the reasons why we choose in details the forestry sector. For sure, forestry has a crucial role. Well, forest in general has a crucial role for carbon sequestration, for air quality improvement, biodiversity conservation, and also soil stability. But as we said, these sectors has also a very high impact on nature. We know that deforestation brings to habitat loss, biodiversity reduction, and also a great significant contribution to climate change. But it's not it's not only negative. We have also a lot of opportunities coming from the forestry sector through nature-based solutions, for example, reforestation. and natural regeneration, sustainable forestry, and also agroforestry systems. Here, just to remind us all which are the ecosystem services that forests offer us. Here in the graph, we can see the division of the four ecosystem services. We have the provisioning services, so the supply of raw materials like timber and fiber, food or chemical, and water, as well as supporting services for habitat conservation, for biodiversity, and also soil formation. Regulating services, as we said before, the carbon storage and also purification of air and water, and climate regulation, and also important flood mitigation. And then we also have cultural services for tourism activities, recreation, and education. These are just some of the numbers that we can evaluate from the use of forests in our planet. We can say that almost 30% of the hectares on the Earth are used for the production as both wood and non-wood forest products, as we said before, so provisioning services. While another 20% of forests are used for the other three ecosystem services: biodiversity conservation, protection of soil and water, and also social services. Here also the economic value of the forestry sector. We estimate that global gross domestic product is around $600 billion per year. Of course, in some countries where they really rely on nature and on forests, this percentage can overcome 10%. In the graph on the left, you can see that the demand of wood and non-wood products is rising along the years. This is an absolute value. So we know that human population is rising a lot, but the demand per capita, so per person, is decreasing. But in general, the absolute demand of wood and non-wood products is rising. While in the graph, in the cake graph on the left, well, on the right actually, you can see the division of what are the products that forests produce. We have wood products like paper products, pulp, and wooden furniture. And also we have non-wood products like natural rubber, bamboo, honey, mushrooms, and others. You can see here the percentage, more or less. It's not only the demand in general of of wood products that is arising, but also the products that are coming from sustainable forestry. You can see in this graph as well the demand of products from certified forest. The most important certification entities are FSC and PFSC. This little decrease in 2022 and 2023 is caused by the block, let's say, the stop of certification in Russia after the Ukraine war. But in general, the sustainable certification products were arising till 2021. This is important. Is important to take into consideration, because as we can see here, just to have a map of where are the forests that are certified. Most of them actually are in the Russia area. These are the PFSC map. We can see here, of course, Africa doesn't have a lot of certified areas, but actually lots in the North America and South America, and as well Europe and Asia and Oceania. The same is for FSC, that is counting 182 million of hectares, certified. The areas are more or less the same, as we can see here. So after this list of numbers, I would like to focus on the importance of understand what we mean as forestry sector, because forestry sector like this doesn't mean really something concrete. So each company that works in this sector needs to identify which are exactly the economic activities that are inside their value chain. This is a map, a graph, a table from TNFD. We have upstream operation, direct operation, and downstream operation. Here we can have some examples. Of course, it's not exhaustive. There is the ISIC list of economic activities, that is the international list of activities. It's important actually to understand exactly which are the activities that the company is doing. Some examples: in the upstreams, usually we find forestry management and silviculture, sawmill operation, and biorefineries. In the direct operation, we have wood product manufacturers, pulp and paper producer, and also bio-based products producer and building products. While downstream, we can find retailers, consumers, and final disposal. Along all the value chain, we can also find transportation and distribution, or waste management and recycling. So this is the first step that a company needs to do, to evaluate. The second step is actually to understand within each of the economic activities which are the relation with nature. The first relation that we are going to explore is the dependence. So how much a company, how much a sector, an activity, an economic activity depends on nature. Here also from the WBC, we can see this table, and also the World Economic Forum states that the forestry sector is actually the most dependent on nature. We can find here some example of dependencies. So what is a dependency? Is like an indicator, an ecosystem services that benefits the forestry sector, the sector. So which are the economic, the ecosystem services that the forestry sector use, and without them can't go further. We can see here, for example, fiber and other materials, as we know, like raw materials. They depend on raw materials from forest, of course, the water flow, the pollination, but also like climate regulation is really important because it creates it creates a lot of natural hazards, as well as disease and pest control, and also flood and storm protection. Here, just a couple of examples of how much the forestry sector can depend on nature. Here we have the example of the forests in North Europe that are actually victims of the bark beetles that is spreading a lot. You can see here in the graph that the number of hectares of trees that are impacted by the bark beetles are increasing a lot. This bark beetle is spreading because of the climate change. Another example here on the right is the Vaya storm in 2018. This was a very strong storm, always caused by climate change, that destroyed completely 41,000 hectares in the north of Italy, causing 2.8 billion of euros of damage. So this was the first relation with nature, but then after evaluating that, we need to evaluate which are the impacts of the forestry sector, of each economic activity on nature. TNFD, but also other standards, SBTN and the SRS, they focus the impacts and they measure impacts based on the 5 main drivers of biodiversity loss that you can see here. And you can see in this nice graph that forestry sector actually have a great impact, a really high impact on lots of these biodiversity loss drivers. The small triangles you can see here on the left, the small one is correlated to upstream operation, and the one on the right side is correlated to downstream operation. We can see here water use is the most actually important impact, high impact on nature, but also the use of land, so land use, and also pollution, both in atmosphere through greenhouse gas emissions, but also water, soil, and solid waste pollutant. Also, another quite important impact is on biodiversity, because it creates a disturbance to native species, but also import alien and invasive species through plantation. As we said, we always need to divide and to understand which are exactly the economic activities that create these impacts. So again, we should understand which are the upstream, direct, and downstream operation. Here, just to give you some example and go into more details on which can be the impacts of the forestry sector. Of course, unsustainable forests, so deforestation and road construction will lead to land use. Water demanding, and like water is a resource that is used a lot along the value chain during a lot of different activities like bleaching and irrigation, for example. And also machinery and burning biomass and transportation are the main driver of greenhouse gas emissions. Looking at the other 2 drivers of biodiversity loss, so pollution and invasive species, as we said, pollution, it's really a high impact from forestry sector, for example, wastewater discharge, and also light and noise and vibration pollution can disturb native species, and as we said, the introduction of non-native, so alien and invasive species through plantation. Here again, just to give you an idea, but of course, if you want to leave your experience or add something, you can do it absolutely from the chat. But here is just an example of which are the impacts on pollution from the pulp and paper industry. So they use a lot of pollutant during the processes, for example, during wood digestion, pulping, and also during bleaching. Of course, this creates and causes toxicity in the water, and also toxicity actually in animals, agriculture, and the human being actually. So we saw the first relation with nature, that was dependencies, we saw the second one, that was impact, and we are now looking at the third relation that forestry sector can have with nature, that are risks. Risks are mentioned as more economic risks that companies can face because of natural degradation. They are divided in two types of risks. We have physical risks, as we also saw before. They are really correlated with dependencies. And as we said, like climate change and natural hazard can cause damage to the forest, and this can be more vulnerable to pests and disease, for example. This was an acute physical risk, so acute that is very short in time but very strong. But then we have also chronic physical risk that are going through the months and the years, for example, pollination and also climate change. This is an example of a physical risk in the western US forests that are victims of wildfires. And this caused the loss of a really big area of forest, so raw materials. And this create also a decrease of the economic value of the timberland by almost 10% of the economic value of before. Looking at the transition risk, these are risks that actually all the companies can face because of the transition of the changing of the environment around them, in terms of policy regulation, for example. If there are more strictly regulation standards to respect certification, the company needs to make an economic effort to align to this regulation. Another transition risk is the change of market, so both from consumers. So consumers want and ask always more for sustainable products. So again, the company needs to invest in innovation and sustainable products, and also can at the same time can have a decrease in yields and revenues because they don't sell anymore not sustainable products, so the other products. In the market, there is also the request from investors, for example, because investors are always more pay more attention to the ESG performance, for example. So they will be more attractive to give money and to invest in companies that are more sustainable and respect ESG performance. Reputation, it's of course a transition risk, and also technology. So while all the economy, all the activities is moving towards using more and more sustainable technology, also the other companies needs to do that. So they need to make a transition also in the technologies mood. Just an example that is quite new, let's say, regarding transition risk correlated to regulation. We know that the European Union Deforestation Regulation, the UDR, has been postponed for 1 year, exactly to give more time to companies to align to this regulation that actually needs, ask that all products that are sold in in the European Union are coming from non-deforestation activities. Okay, so we saw the three most important, like three of the four actually, relation that an activity can have with nature. As we could see, we can't anymore consider only climate change in our strategies, but we need to consider nature in total. So biodiversity, water, pollution, waste, all of these indicators needs to be taken in consideration. The important difference between climate and biodiversity and nature is that climate, it's quite easy, let's say, but because we can measure it through one metric, that is the CO2 equivalent, and also it's spread around the globe in the atmosphere, so you can compensate greenhouse gas emission everywhere in the world. But on the other side, biodiversity and nature, it's quite a lot more complex because it has a lot of indicators. You can't measure it only by one as the CO2 equivalent, and also it's site specific. So if you use land, and if you destroy an habitat close to your site production, you can't compensate and mitigate the same amount on the other part of the globe. You need to do it there in their place. So when we take into consideration all of these indicators, so climate and nature in total, we can implement a strategy that goes towards a net positive economy. The strategy will lead, hopefully, to reach the global goal for nature. That means that we need to have a net positive impact on nature by 2030 and a full recovery by 2050, full recovery of nature by 2050. And we measure that, basing according to the Net Positive initiative to the 2020 baseline. So I talked about this goal to reach a net positive economy, to implement a strategy on the net positive, to become net positive. But actually, the first thing we have to do is to understand and define what is a net positive economy. For this reason, as we said at the beginning of this presentation, the first goal of the GoNaturePositive project was exactly to define what is a net positive economy. There is an open consultation till the 30th of November this month. You can find the entire document on the website. There is also an executive summary if you want. But actually, this webinar is also a way to collect feedback on this net positive economy concept. We really need your feedback. We really need some ideas and to understand if we already include all the information we need to implement these strategies and this approach. So for this reason, I ask you to go into the interactive part of this webinar. You can use Menti.com and enter the code 87176619 and go to the first question. And you can also use the QR code if you want. So let me know if it's working. So I will start with some really light questions to understand which is the audience today. Is someone joining?
It's working there, Giulia. Kieran here. All good. Oh, it's waiting for the presenter, I think, to go to the next slide.
Okay, yeah, it's perfect. It's correct. When I go to the next, we will. Okay.
Cool.
Well, few people, I think. You can see the code on the top of the slide if you want to join this. You can put here which is the stakeholder group you identify most strongly with. Someone else is joining. Thank you. We really need feedbacks on this concept because for now it's really, let's say, theoretical concept, and we need to have it really clear in our mind, because then we have to do it concretely along the project and testing it on the pilots. So it's really important to have this concept. So the consultation will be open till the 30th of November, and we will have a final draft, the final version of the concept note in spring, probably. Okay. So your nationality, you can put your nationality, you can write it. Canadian. Hello. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. And your gender, if you want to say that. Thank you. Okay, so let's go to the concepts. So the baseline of the concept is that, as we saw before, regarding dependencies, we know and we start thinking that everyone and everything in the society depends on nature, so all human activities and all businesses. But we also know that nature is declining very, very, very fastly. So we need a transformation of economic businesses, of businesses and economic systems, and we need them to integrate nature in their strategies in order to have a prosperous and nature positive planet. For doing that, it's not only a matter of economic activities, of course, or it's not only business, but also all the people and all the society and stakeholders needs to take action towards this goal. So let's understand. Let's read what is a net positive economy. So the definition that we propose is this one. Net positive economy means that the net result of all economic activities combined leads to an absolute increase in nature to the point of full recovery. As I said before, full recovery is meant and is based according to the Net Positive initiative. So full recovery means that we will have more nature in 2030 compared to 2020 baseline, and then we will follow a recovery till 2050 or till the full recovery, actually. You can see in this graph the economic activities. So there's still some economic activities that are having negative impacts, but they are going towards reducing them and having positive impacts. At the same time, economic activities that already have positive impacts will increase their positive impacts. So the question is if you agree with this definition, and like in the next slide, you can also leave some comments on that. to see if this definition is correct or not. Okay, strongly agree. For sure, it would be very interesting to see if someone is, neither agree or disagree, or actually very strongly disagree what they think, because in the last webinars we had some disagree answers, and we are very happy to hear what you have to say, because we need also your opinion to integrate the concept. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Giulia, just on that, come to it at the end. We've some great questions coming in, also in relation to net positive and nature positive. So there's great feedback coming in.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, great. If you want to leave these comments also in here, so we can use these comments to integrate the concept note and to integrate the consultation. Maybe you can just copy it if you want. Anyway, this Mentimeter will be open for till the end of the month, so you can still add some comments and also share that with someone if you want. As I said before, on the website you can find the concept note, and if you think there is someone that could be interested in that, you can share it, and there is a questionnaire on the website that you can also fill. So I think the definition needs to include just economic but societal impacts. Okay. So we did that. Actually, it's not in the definition because the definition is only like a small phrase, but will for sure include economic social impacts. The math doesn't work. Net positive implies loss somewhere, absolute. Improvements in net imply no loss at all. So how does that work? There will always be loss. This is the next questions actually, because the definition had inside the word net. So net means that there would be still negative impacts. And we consider that, and we are prepared that we will have still negative impacts. My hope is that a net positive economy doesn't need a definition in 5 years' time. It will be widely accepted that nature is part of the economy and actions or behaviors will reflect it. Okay. It's future. We understand that we are going very, very fastly compared to the world, probably. Thank you for your feedbacks. And this is actually the second comments that we had before. So if you agree that we will still have negative impacts along the journey towards a net positive economy. For sure, like in our opinion, we can't stop in 1 second all the negative impacts, because economies, but not only businesses, but also society will still have lots of negative impacts in the future. So we need to consider that we'll have that. But the important thing is that we will have a net positive. So the sum of all the impacts, both negative and positive, will be positive. We are agree on that. Okay. Couple of more answers, I think. I'll go further. Thank you. Comments on that? Well, we already had that. If you want to leave them, for sure we will save them. So once that we have a definition of what is a net positive economy, we need to operationalize it. So understand how to do it in the future and in the businesses. So we divided the journey and the operationalization in three different actions. The first one will be for businesses and institutions to reduce the natural negative impacts, the impacts that we saw before for forestry sector. So we need to reduce them. At the same time, we need to increase positive actions, positive impacts. This can be done both putting in place policies, but also using net-based solution and net-based enterprises that are going to be always more and more in the future, hopefully. The third one is to include not only businesses, so not only reducing negative impacts and increasing positive impacts, but also including a transformative change and include the value of nature inside our decision making, and also maybe considering another kind of metric to measure the economic growth. So something that is not only gross domestic product, that is only going to measure the profit, the economic profit, but also an indicator or more indicator that are going to measure nature loss and relation with nature. So do you agree on this division, on this, on having these three actions in order to arrive to reach a net positive economy? Okay, neither agree or disagree. I would like to know if we miss something or if you think it's it's not really useful to divide these actions. Okay, as we said before, this is quite more or less a repetition, but actually the important thing is that we consider the sectors, and we need to reduce negative impacts for sure for all the sectors. So considering all the economic activities in the world, we need to reduce these impacts, and we need to increase the sectors that have a positive impact. So there will be a change, a transformative change in the sectors, and we will have more positive impact sector and less negative impacts. Okay, we'll agree on that. As we said, the strategy, so when you measure impacts, risks, and dependencies, then you have to implement a strategy in order to mitigate your impacts. And well, we use, of course, the mitigation hierarchy. So we will need to avoid what we can avoid. For example, in the forestry sector, we can avoid deforestation, and we can avoid the conversion of areas of significant biodiversity value. We need to, when we avoid what we could avoid, we then can reduce what we can't avoid, actually. So we can reduce the use of water, and we can, for example, reduce impacts from road networks or optimize land use. When we reduce impacts, we can then restore, so regenerate land, forests, for example, restoring areas of significant biodiversity and carbon value. restore connectivity between habitats, and also restore native and endangered tree species, as well as enhance carbon removals in soil and forest. The important thing is to do that in order. So starting from avoiding action, then reducing, and then restoring. This is very important to avoid greenwashing. As we said, we need not only to reduce negative impacts, but we need to implement and use net-based solution, so increase positive impacts. And we can do that actually with net-based solutions that are actually solutions that use nature to create benefits to business and society. We identified, for example, green jobs as one of the opportunities that we have from using nature-based solutions. It's also important that nature-based enterprises are rising because like we identified nature-based enterprises as enterprise that use nature as a core element for their product service. So here, like, do you agree that including nature in the strategy of companies will bring also to new opportunities for the business? I would like to highlight that this is the fourth relation that nature can have with nature and with business. So we have impacts, dependencies, risks, and opportunities. So opportunities is from the using of nature-based solutions, for example, not only, of course. There is one disagree. Can you tell us more? If you want, just leave a comment maybe later or in the chat, it's fine. I just put here some of the nature-based solutions that we can find in forestry. As we saw before, some of the like regenerative and preserving activities that we can do are protecting and restoring areas of significant biodiversity and value and carbon value, reintroducing native or endangered tree species, preserving connectivity between habitats, and also preserve carbon removals in soils and forests. Let's see just some very concrete example of some companies that did that. For example, this company, Manulife in Australia, they restore a forest close to their production site, to their productive forest, and this lead to a prevention of invasive species from recolonizing, and also high levels of flora and biodiversity. And this is another example in South Africa. The company Sappi, they produce medical and chemicals from the pepper bark tree that was protected. That was not extinct but vulnerable. So they decided to start a project in reintroducing these species into the habitat, and they did it actually thanks to local communities. So with the help of local communities, they had both an economic benefit because they had again the raw material they needed for the production, and on the other side that also help communities, so they had a social impact. This is another example from international paper in Brazil. The conversion, so they restore connectivity. So it was the third example. They restore connectivity between fragmented forests, and this contributes to the regulation of soil erosion, filtering all out pollutants, and also maintaining watershed stability. Sumitomo is another example. They introduce a stock-based water management approach that was very similar to the rice paddies irrigation system. And this leads to a healthy and resilient peatland ecosystem. So they provide carbon stocks and habitat for wildlife. I conclude this list of examples of netto-based solution with an Italian one from Luxottica. This site of Luxottica was in danger, actually, because they are very close to a mountain that was destroyed by the Vaya storm in 2018. So they regenerate the forest behind their sites to prevent soil erosion and to prevent them from material damage caused by the slope degradation, let's say. So this also just to say that not only netto-based solution in forestry are benefits for forestry, but actually forestry can be used as a netto-based solution also from other kind of sectors. So after this list, I just ask you if you see other opportunities. As we said, green jobs is one of the opportunity. So if you see, of course, netto-based solution, if you want to add some example, or if you want to, just leave your experience on which are the netto-based solution and opportunities that you see in integrating nature inside the strategy, the business strategy. Okay, thank you for your comment. Okay, there is opportunities for humans to reconnect with nature and improve human health along with ecosystem restoration. Okay. Yeah, systemic transformation is required. Absolutely. Thank you. Continuing on how we can operationalize a net positive economy, we identify, as we said, the 3 actions. So action on reducing negative impacts, increasing positive impacts, and have a transformation, a systemic transformation. And we identified, as I said before, the 6 sectors that are that have more impact, but are also the biggest opportunity to help us in reaching the goal. The sectors are tourism, buildings, forestry, blue economy, and agri-food. But we also need societal factors. So someone was saying that at the beginning of the questionnaire. We consider absolutely that we need to include local communities, and we need to consider equity and human well-being and prosperity. As well, we identify different scale. One is a spatial scale, and one is a temporal scale. I will go through it in a sec. Just your opinion on this division. Do you think it's comprehensible? Do you think is correct? Agreed. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so if you want to leave some comments on that, you can do that. Maybe you can also talk at the end. Here is the list of which are the actors that we identified: policymakers, business and enterprises, finance and investors, standard bodies, environmental NGOs, researchers and citizens, including local communities. Do you think we identified all of the key actors? Do you think we missed someone or something? We had quite a lot this suggestion to include nature as a stakeholder, actually as an actor. So they suggested to include nature rights in our actors list, for example. Okay. Let's see if you have some other ideas similar to the one on nature, or if you agree with the nature to be included in this list, you can tell us. Okay, yeah, we have youth actually, but for sure, yeah, future generation, I think we have them. Yeah, only actors that matters are politicians. Education, media, interesting. Okay, education institution, yeah, perfect. Thank you. So as I said before, we identified the different scales and also different social factors. Regarding the scales, we identified we suggest that we will have an impact going through all the different scales. So starting from the local scale, so having an impact in the local scale, and then going through the regional, national, EU, and world, and the global scale. At the same time, we identify the temporal scale, and we say that the net positive economy it's only a transitional movement. When we will have a full recovery of nature, we will stop to need a net positive economy, and we can get back to the sustainable one. So it's only transitional. On the right side, you can also see some of the frameworks, indicators, and standards that we use to evaluate that. And I will go through the really last questions on that. So, do you agree on the division of the spatial scale and also temporal scale? So, global, regional, national, and local scale, and also the transitional economy to a point of net recovery. Okay, perfect. We are all agreed. And as we said before, we need to include human rights and equity, and especially we need to include the local communities, because actually they are the people that are living closely to nature, and they depend more than other on nature. So do you agree that we need to include them, and they are very important for this transformation? Okay, thanks. Yeah, here just if you have some comments on that, so or if you can identify which actions we need to include communities and to ensure the social well-being and equity in the net positive economy. Consensus on approach, yeah, for sure. Okay. Degrowth. Yeah, we consider also this in the concept note. You can have more details on that. Yeah, like in my opinion, my personal one, degrowth is it's beautiful, but it's quite empirical. So yeah, the last question, just to say, if you have in mind some indicators, metrics, frameworks that we need to use, as we said before, we use SBTN, TNFD, net positive initiative indicators, and also we will use FSC, for example. You can add here some, if you have some other frameworks that you have in mind. Okay. Well, if you want to leave some other comments, you can do it. We are at the end of this webinar. I will just go through the forestry pilot in order to just let you know what we are doing. We, as ETIFOR, we are working with a company that is Panguaneta, is a plywood company. And they are already quite involved in the assessment of emissions, water, and waste. And during the project, we will guide them towards a net positive journey and implementation strategy. This is the theory of change, so the mapping, the activities that we will do along the project. So starting from the concept of net positive economy and the criteria and indicators that we will find, and also policy and regulations. We will map, as we said at the beginning, the value chain. So we will identify which are the activities inside the company in order to analyze and to do a materiality assessment and to have a baseline. And also we'll set then targets and create a roadmap, implement a roadmap to reach these targets. At the same time, we will integrate FSC label for ecosystem services inside the strategy, and we will test it and monitor it during the project and during the reaching targets. We hope to validate the net positive indicators in the forestry sector and also to increase awareness on net positive practices for businesses and citizens. This is just an example of what we will expect as an output for the materiality screening. So we will identify the economic activities and which are the impacts on each impact driver biodiversity loss. And this is just an example from the VBC on the roadmap that we will have to create for the forestry sector and for our pilot in order to reach the goal. So yeah, thank you very much. Again, if you want to leave other comments on the website, you can do it. And thanks very much.
Hello, and thank you very much, Giulia. And sorry, I was just typing. Thanks to Bob Hamilton of Irish Trees, who is going to plant 20 native Irish trees tomorrow as a mark of thanks to all on this webinar. We had a number of questions. I know we've run over slightly. One or two have been addressed. Diarmid Macree was asking about, have we considered including a reference to the concept of green forest jobs? And I think you mentioned that in relation to the opportunities of the transition to nature positive in the jobs that it will create. Is that fair to say, Giulia?
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. So we will, like we suggested, including nature inside the strategies of businesses and inside the economy in general will create green jobs. So yeah, exactly. Opportunities. This one is one of the opportunities that we have.
Exactly. And finally, Catherine had a question in relation to the mathematics behind it, which she did mention earlier and you addressed, but she has just a comment in the chat that I'll address, and then we are more or less there, unless anyone wants to ask any other questions. Catherine has said, there was no mention that green jobs will allow for continued economic growth, but without negative impacts. But think about that. How can there be continued economic growth inside a biophysically constrained planet? We have already exceeded 6 of the 9 planetary boundaries precisely because of economic growth that relies on extracting from nature, producing something, selling that something, maximized, monetized profit, and generating waste locally. Sorry, how does that change in nature positive? Everybody is still buying stuff, even green jobs. What are those? E.g. solar panels. These extract rare earths and generate mining waste, cobalt in the Congo, etc. Missing from the conversation is this energy consumption that must occur. You can read the question there, Giulia, but has that been considered or addressed?
Yeah, so this is, I think, a good point, actually. Another thing that we need to understand is what is exactly a green job. And actually, yeah, it's not really necessary that a green job will not have negative impacts on the economy. So it's important to address that. And yeah, like we are totally like we know that this concept is very idealistic, let's say, but this is the theoretical goal. And then during the project, we will test that concretely on the sectors. So this is exactly the goal of the project. So try to have a really high goal and then test and try to do it. So at the end of the project, we will for sure see if we need to change something or if it's the right direction. It's an horizon project. So
super. I think it is worth pointing out, as you say, it is a 4-year project, and we will be testing, I guess, the theory behind the concept in various sectors with practical on-the-ground projects that Giulia is involved with management of and relationships with those projects. Bob Hamilton says here in the comments, business models that give back to nature and generate profit will grow rapidly by offering nature-based solutions. And I think that's, one thing I've struggled to get my head around in sustainable forestry is the importance